Hi everyone! Today for the next video of the Budo Way of Life or Budo in Life series, we are with Rionne. Nice gentleman I met at the Home Budo, I think 13 years ago, 14 years ago maybe?
Yeah, since 2008 I've been there.
Yeah, probably met you at that time.
Yeah.
And so you was practicing Aikido when you arrived in Japan, and then you not turned to, but started practicing some other sports, fight-related sport, and especially pro wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
You also run video editing company,
yeah.
so shooting and editing.
Mm-hmm.
I remember also when you did some movie stuff back in the days.
Yeah, long time ago.
You had that in your skill sets
Yeah.
at that time too.
Mm-hmm.
And you sometimes have interesting views and strong opinions about martial arts and practice in Japan and out Japan too, but probably also in Japan as you've been there for quite a while. So thank you very much for accepting this interview today. I'm glad we're going to have your point of view that is quite different from the other people we had before. And I think it's really interesting, all the different views we had, and I'm really happy to add another different perspective today. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
If I missed something in your introduction, feel free to add anything. If you want to introduce anything else I forgot, go ahead. If not, then just please start with how you came to martial arts and why you came to Japan.
Okay, well, this is a kind of a story that I do speeches on in Japanese and English as kind of a you can get your goal, like a ganbareba dekiru. You can be anything you want. This kind of started, and I'll take you back right from the minute when I was 7 years old. Okay, that's where my martial arts journey began. And everything at this point, at 7 years old, led to what I'm doing right now. So I'm on this school camp in Australia. I'm 7, yes, grade 2, so 7. And I saw this big, giant, I know you can't say fat anymore, but he was big, he was fat, and he was 12. So he's much older, much taller, much bigger. And I looked at him, I said, "Hey, fatso." It's really stupid. But it was a very big moment in my life because he turned around and he went, "Oh, yeah?" Bah! And he hit me straight away, no words. My eye went out here. It was a school camp, and I went home. It was the last day of camp. I went back to my house. My father's from the north of England, where he was born during World War II. So, they no food, they were poor, and when you fight like a man. This is the way that Northern English, that's all they like to do, right? The British. They just love to fight and drink beer. Right? And he was one of those guys. And I went home and he was really angry at me. But he wasn't angry because I got in a fight. He was angry because I didn't fight back. And the first thing I didn't understand. But Dad, he's so much bigger than me. He's so much older than me. How can I fight back? And he just looked at me, he's like, "Right, we're going to put you into martial arts." That was my beginning of my life. So he looks up the yellow pages, obviously back in the late 1980s, there's no internet, so he looks it up. The closest one was Taekwondo, right? Now my Aikido journey directly relates to this Taekwondo dojo. So he looks it up, okay, Taekwondo, and we enroll there. And there was an English woman teaching the children in Taekwondo. And obviously my father being English, her being English, they got on straight away. And her husband was doing Aikido, right? So I've been involved somewhat in Aikido since 7, 8 years old. My father ended up joining the dojo, right? So he joined the dojo and I would always follow him around. Cut a long story short, I did 6 years in Taekwondo and I was in the Australian junior national team. And we were trying to get to the Olympics. Now I was a little bit younger, so I wasn't looked at as an Olympic athlete, but we had like these future stars. I went to this massive big training camp in Australia and they were like, "Right, all the young kids over here, because the Olympics they're going to have Taekwondo very soon, so we want to start growing people." And my father didn't really like that. because he saw that I got to this quite high level very quickly. And then he said to me, well, you know what? We're pulling you out. So I got like a nidan in Taekwondo, right? So there was in 6 years, 7 years. And he's like, we're going to put you in karate because you can't punch. All you can do is these fancy tap kicks, right? And who wants to be a tap kicker? No. And so he put me right back into the beginning. I started with a Shidobi again, white belt, right from the start at 14. So that's where my karate career began at 14. Did it for a few years, and I was like, when you get to like 16 years old, you just want to go hang out with your friends. You don't really want, I wanted to play basketball, and I wanted to go to parties, and I quit karate. And he didn't talk to me for a year, basically. He didn't talk to me. He was so upset. He was devastated because I had been junior champion in Taekwondo, junior champion in karate, juniors, of course. And he was devastated, and he didn't barely talk to me. And then in the early days of the internet, so I'm going to say 1999, in the 1999, do you remember the chat program called ICQ? Maybe not, it's probably maybe a bit before.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, ICQ, it was the very first, before Messenger.
Yeah.
Microsoft Messenger, whatever it was called. And I come across my karate sensei's daughter on there, and I saw her name. I was like, what? That can't be. I had a massive crush on her. I was in love with her as a teenager, 14 and 15-year-old boy. She's my age. And I was like, right. And I started to message her, and she's like, yeah, let's meet up. I was, by the way, a skinny little boy, 60 kilograms, little shrimp, okay? But I went down to the karate dojo that I hadn't been there for a few years with only one intention. I wanted to get on a date with the karate sensei's daughter. But I watched the class, and the mother, who was also black belt, the sensei's wife, oh, Rionne, come to the office. And she signed me up. I couldn't say no. So I'm 19 years old, didn't want to go back to karate, and signed me up within 5 minutes, right? And I had no intention to go back, but anyway, I go back. 3 months later, as an orange belt, because they recognized my junior grade and they gave me an orange belt, I won my under 65 kilogram, I'm 90 kilograms now, by the way, but under 65 kilogram group, with 2 black belts on each side, and I'm standing in the first place podium with an orange belt, and they're all going like, well, who's this guy? But this just goes to show that when you do it from a young age, it's like riding a bicycle. You train hard, and then you can get it back. So, I was happy that my father put me through all that. But when I won that championship in karate, the state titles, my dad came to watch, but he never said anything. He didn't congratulate me, didn't shake my hand, and he was still really upset. And then right around that time, my cousin was a student in Japan, just a regular student, and he'd never done any martial arts. And he said to me, like, why don't you come, visit me in Japan? You're doing karate? He's like, I was like, yeah, but I'm a first-year university student, and I'm broke. He's like, I'll lend you the money, but as long as you pay me back, I'll lend you the money. And I was like, yeah, okay. And he lent me the money, and 2 days later, it was in my bank account. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to Japan. And at 19 years old, I came to Japan randomly, and for 17 of the last 19 years, I've been here. Now, if we want to go quickly on to how I got into Aikido, is that I quit karate because I discovered Roppongi, right? And as a young, gaijin, a young foreigner here in Japan, quickly things turn from, okay, I'm going to go train hard to, oh my God, Roppongi, 19, 20 years old. But you have to have these periods in your life, because you can't live your life with any regrets, right? And I have done everything I could ever imagine possible, and I'm very happy and content. But, so I quit karate, and of course, because I growing up watching my father do Aikido, right? When he was going through all the Q grades, because in Australia, like basically, if you don't have a swimming pool, you're probably of, I don't know, how can I say it nicely? Yeah, everyone has a swimming pool, basically. Almost every second person has a swimming pool. So he would go through his Q grades, and he would throw me like koshinage, he would do like rough ikkyos, he would smash me all over. And I was 12, 13 coming up because it was in the water, right? So he could pick me up in the air and he could throw me. He could do koshinage, he could do everything because it was in the water. And I learned how to take ukemi without even realizing, because he needed a uke for his gradings, like to practice his grading stuff, right? And around the same time, he invested in a very big video camera, professional one. And he's like, I want you to start filming my gradings and some of the classes. So at 12 years old, I also got an introduction to filmmaking through Aikido, right? So you can see how everything is linked. And, you know, you can see how pivotal my father was in shaping, unintentionally, what I'm doing, you know, right now. But so I'm 20 years old and I joined the Hombu Dojo. Small little kid, and I didn't speak any Japanese, and I wanted to say like, oh, this is my first time. So I looked up in the dictionary, first. Okay, ichiban. Okay, that must be first. Of course we know it means number one, like you're the best, you're ichiban. And I went to the second floor of the beginners class. I didn't know anything. I didn't know any, you know, etiquette, anything. And I went up to the sensei and I said, ichiban. Right? I wanted to tell him, I was nervous. I wanted to tell him this is my first time. But instead I said to him, you're the best. And he looked at me and laughed. I trained with this little old lady. This is 20 years ago. She may not even be alive now because she was in her late 60s at the time. And she put this ferocious Nikkyo on me. And I said, no, stop, no, I don't know what I'm doing. And after a month I realized that the Hombu Dojo, they don't really teach you so much, right? You watch and then you do it. And because you're not allowed to talk in Hombu, no one was teaching me anything. So after a month of that, I quit Aikido. And I was like, well, you know, maybe I can do it when I go back to Australia next year. I ended up going back to Australia and I started it in my father's dojo. He was teaching with the main instructor there. They're both from England. And that was kind of my very quick introduction to Aikido in Japan, right? Ended up going back and studying Japanese in university. And my second year of university was an exchange program at Seido University, immersion in Japan, culture and language. And the dojo was in Kichijoji. And I looked up Aikido. I might as well do Aikido because I've been doing it for a year now at my father's dojo. So who has a dojo in Kichijoji that I can go to? Oh, Tada Sensei. Okay, so I spent 4 years with Tada Sensei. Amazing, brilliant. Phenomenal, the best. But it wasn't for me because I come from kicking and even though I didn't do full contact karate, punch is a punch. You're trying to win. You're trying to, you know, you learn in traditional karate to stop, but you have to have the intent to go through.
Yeah, and Tada Sensei has this religious and philosophical aspect of Aikido that it's hard to grasp at a young age.
Well, the thing about his stuff is that his students are all here and he's so far ahead of the world. He's up here. But everybody's trying to get to here. But they're not trying to get to the steps that he took to get to this point where the universe revolves around Tada Sensei. Right? He makes his Aikido universe move. Where this is a problem that we can talk about later, but so I did 4 years with him, and I remember thinking, "Oh my God, this is great, but this is not for me." I missed the kicks, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna quit Aikido because this is just not for me. And I went down to Tanabe, and we went to the 2008. So this would have been like the 10th or 11th?
10th or 11th Congress. With Christian Tissier and
Tamura Sensei. I got photos with them.
Which is amazing Congress.
It was.
Probably the best.
It was brilliant.
Congress, yeah.
The funny thing about it is you can see from, you go up to the top of the balcony and you look over that and you can see all the nationalities without having to see or knowing them. Oh, there's the Brazilians because they got all their BJJ patches on their stuff. Oh, there's the French, because they're all, and there's the Australians with their bad, sometimes bad manners. Cool, like this is the great thing about Aikido. You meet so many different people from all over the world. But I was done. The only reason I went to the Congress is because my friend came over from Australia. My senpai, great friend, known him since I was a teenager, a little bit older than me, and we had planned to do some Aikido, drink Australian style, and wake up the next morning hungover and go to training, because that's what Australians do. And the first day was Seki Sensei. I wasn't 100% sure I'm going to give up Aikido, 90% sure. And I see this guy, Seki. I was like, oh, this guy's pretty cool. Yeah, okay. That immediately made me think, okay, maybe I shouldn't give up. Seki Sensei is really cool. He's probably my second or favorite teacher. But the next class was Yokota Sensei. And I was like, oh my God. He's throwing side kicks. He throws on an armbar. He's doing this dynamic stuff, but it's martial. It's straight. You know, the minute someone attacks you, he's in. He's a ghost. And there are different styles. We can talk about that. In MMA, we always, we always say like styles make fights. Or boxing, styles make fights. But in Aikido or Budo, styles make the people. And Yokota Sensei has this dynamic style. And sometimes, back in the day, he had a reputation for being super rough and sometimes hurting people. But he was so goddamn martial. And I was like, oh my God, this is the guy. I found the guy. And I quit Tada Sensei's dojo the next week and moved straight to Hombu. My whole schedule revolved all around his classes. He was doing Thursdays at 3 p.m. at the time when he got like 7 students. He was very poorly attended. And then he ended up taking over Mondays from Yasuno Sensei. Now Mondays I went the second last set class of Monday and the last class of Monday for Yasuno Sensei because I wanted to see the change-off when I saw that change-off. I wanted to see the difference between who was coming because, I'm a big Yokota. At that time, I was a big Yokota guy. And the amount of students for Yasuno Sensei for his last class could have been 100. It was packed. And then the very next week, same time slot, 20. Right? There's a difference in followers, I could say. But I know I'm kind of rambling on here a little bit, but I have to get to the end of the story and then we can break down. I'm doing stuff with Yokota Sensei, but still something's not right. This Aikido is great, but something's missing. And I'd always wanted to be either a filmmaker or an action star or a pro wrestler. That's still my childhood dream. And I had a friend who was a former heavyweight professional kickboxer in Japan, American guy, ex-US Marine, just a complete badass, high-level jiu-jitsu, high-level kickboxing, US Marine, and rest in peace to Eric, he passed away. But he said to me, look, why don't you come down to the kickboxing gym? Because, in Japan, kickboxers do MMA, MMA guys do pro wrestling, pro wrestlers do MMA, like it's all mixed. Right? They basically, like Pride had a bunch of kickboxers in there. Pride had some pro wrestlers. They had everybody.
And the community is actually much smaller than
super small, right? So I said, yeah, okay. And this is how I got into pro wrestling. And the reason I want to bring up the kickboxing and the pro wrestling is because later on I'll tell you how that has shaped my Aikido. Okay. I'm doing kickboxing and I decided, you know what, I might give this a go as I want to try and become a professional kickboxer. Why not? You can do anything in Japan because Japan is good to us foreigners. You can do anything you want in this country if you put your mind to it. And I had my pro test. I got knocked out badly. He's now the current middleweight champion. He's been for like 5 years. He was already, we used to call him the Terminator or the Cyborg. He was already so good back then, but I had my pro test and he knocked me out and I was like, yeah, maybe this is not for me kind of thing. And around that time I was still kind of very lost. And I met a fortune teller in the kickboxing dojo. Still doing stuff with Yokota Sensei, so at this time I'm combining my kickboxing and Aikido. And she says to me, oh, hold out your hands, and she did all my hand stuff. Oh, your life is a bit, skewed. Like, what do you want to do in your life? I said, well, I'd love to be a pro wrestler. I was kind of like half joking. Oh, what, really? Well, I know this guy, I know this guy, I know this guy. And she introduced me to this pro wrestler who's working for one of the most famous pro wrestlers in Japan, Tajiri, who used to work in America in WWE. He was like one of the most successful ever Japanese in America. And to cut a long story short, I quit my job. I had saved up some money because I worked at an investment bank in IT for a year, and I had some savings, but that all went very fast because when you live the life of a rookie trainee in wrestling, like you have to dedicate your life, and I ended up living on soup and bread. And at 30 years old, I went from being an English teacher to working in an investment company to being at the very, very bottom with 19 and 20-year-old kids from the countryside who, and we were all broke and poor, but we all had the same dream. And that was to make it in professional wrestling. I'm glad to say that I made it. I did very well. But the last point I'll make on pro wrestling is when I went there, I thought I was getting an education in you've seen WWE like Hulk Hogan, like, oh yeah, but what I didn't realize is that Japanese pro wrestling is so heavily influenced by martial arts, and it ended up Japanese pro wrestling morphed into MMA. The MMA that we know today came from Japanese pro wrestling. So all this training that I was doing was basically like shoot fighting, and I didn't realize it. And I decided at the time, like, I better give this some serious thought. So I quit Aikido for 4 years. And when I came back after 4 years, my Aikido, not done it for 4 years, was so much better than I could ever imagine. I was like, wow, because, we'll get onto this later, but, when you have more stuff in your toolbox, and you can pull out your toolbox and pull out the tools at any time, it's so nice. So that's my story in a very long nutshell, but I had to get it out there because you need to know it for what you're going to ask me.
How your Budo life in Japan put rhythm or influenced your life in Japan? I mean, of course, it seems like it was at the center of everything, but how did you manage to handle, for example, the 2011 earthquake crisis, or this COVID crisis we actually live, or what about private life? How practicing Budo influenced, or your work as well, your the way you see your private life?
Okay, well, first of all, I had to make a lot of sacrifices, of course, right? Financial, social. But I was very lucky to have a very, very good senpai that I met at Hombu called DJ, who was also a very legit martial artist. And, when you have problems in life, your senpai is not just your senpai on the tatami, right? He's your senpai off the tatami too. So I was very fortunate to have someone I could go to, to confide in, to chat to get life advice. Because usually your senpai is older than you, so he's been through all that before. It's very important. It's lacking right now especially in Hombu Dojo. You'll ask the guy beside you, like, oh, who's your senpai? And it's very rare that they have a real senpai, which is like that real connection is like, when you're down or you're upset, you have someone you can talk to. When you are a little bit arrogant on the tatami, you have your senpai to take you right back down, to squash your ego. This is what DJ did to me quite often. When I thought, oh, I'm getting really good at this. Oh, no, you're not, kid. No, you're still back down here, kid. And then, it's very important to have, these kind of figures in your life, I think. I wish that the Japanese martial arts community would understand that their tradition, their culture of having this is such a great thing. I feel it's lacking a little bit these days. I don't know, I can't speak for other martial arts, but especially in Aikido, we need to pay a little bit more attention to, cultivating these relationships.
Mm. Yeah, that's something that's quite difficult in the biggest dojos, where the environment is more focused on the well-being of the entire group than on each and every single student. And well, that's my opinion, but I think Budo doesn't work well with large groups. That's something that was originally designed, maybe not Judo, but for most of and Kendo, which were designed for masses. Other arts, and especially traditional arts, I think they just don't work. You can't learn properly, or you can teach properly to a large group of people. And then the Aikikai is kind of the Humbudo is kind of a problem for that. But you have classes with very few students that usually are much better than classes with many students, regardless of the level of the teacher, actually, just because there are less students.
Right.
And it's a shame because teachers that get a very good image, quite famous, doing seminars all around the world, they get a lot of students and the teaching level drops, you know, and it creates, I'm going to make a lot of enemies if I say that, but I can think of very few Humbudo teachers, very high level, amazing people who have very bad students. And it's like, how can your student be so bad when you're so good? It's like probably because you have too many students. You know.
Well, I'll give you an example. It'll be Tada Sensei. First of all, he's so good that it's hard to be anywhere near him. But he should still expect a level of decency. But the problem with his dojo is there's so many people in Gesoji dojo, in Kichijoji. So they do everything in groups of 5. Right, 4 or 5. But the problem with this is it's a mad rush to finish. Throw, next. Throw, next. And I question how much they're actually learning. It's also a little bit the same in Hombu Dojo because it has to be silent.
Yeah.
Yokota Sensei, no, especially for me.
There are a few teachers speak, but yeah.
But they don't allow us to speak in the corner. They don't allow us to show things. I do, as I don't care, and Sensei doesn't care that I don't care. Because I'm a long-time student, but...
Well, that's also a discussion I had with Guillaume. You have to do no korigeko. You have to stay after the class and continue training what you did, reflect on what you did during the class. When you have like 2-3 hours class, probably in Australia or in France it's like that, you have like 2 hours. 1 hour and a half is really the shortest. 2 hours, probably the standard. Then you have the time to talk, to go through the moves and everything. At the Humbudo, you have at best 50 minutes. You know, the classes always start a bit late and ends a bit before the exact time. You have warm-up, you have like 50 minutes training. In 50 minutes, well, you don't have time to talk. You have to practice the techniques, but you have to stay out of the class and do the techniques and then talk with your senpai, actually. And yeah, reflect on the techniques, build. Actually, you train, that's strange because you train during the teaching time and you build after. From the, I think, Western perspective, well, Western is French for Australians, but Western perspective, you learn during classes and you train after classes, you know? That's kind of the opposite at the Humbudo at least. Yeah,
or you call up and your friend and say, hey, can you come down early?
Yeah.
I'm a bit, you know, I don't understand how to do this koshinagi, can you, you know, and you go down a bit early. But I always take my kohai after class, not during COVID because it's not allowed. And I always, you know, do you have any questions? If not, okay, I'm just going to smash you around and then, you know, then ask questions. But I always find when I'm doing stuff as well, and sometimes I'll do like, all right, give me like a shomen or give me a yokomen, but I'm not going to do any Aikido on you. I'm going to do some Aikido principles, but I'll finish with something different. And I'll always catch someone folding their hakama and looking at me like I'm the worst guy in the world. And like, what's this guy doing? You know, this is not Aikido, you know. It's like, yeah, you know, it's just like, you know, let me be free, you know, like let me express myself in the corner as long as I'm not bothering anybody, you know, and showing my stuff, as long as it's not, you know, I'm not doing boxing, I'm not doing kickboxing, I'm not, you know, but, you know, this, I feel a little bit ostracized in this manner, trying to do stuff after class. Even if I try to show them regular Aikido, I still feel a little bit, you know.
Yeah, I think that's part of the problem of the two large groups we have at Hombu, because you don't have the opportunity and time to get to know everyone. So you don't know what they're doing. And then we enter in the culture of judgment, like social media. I mean, you don't know the people, you judge them, right? Start from the beginning. What the hell?
Yeah.
And then if you don't get to know people, then you can't build a community that will be suitable for good learning. I think that's a real problem. The Budo way of the Japanese way of teaching, but especially in Budo, requires a specific environment, an environment that the modern Japanese society is killing, then you get to do like superficial Budo, superficial practice, superficial relationships with people, and you don't get anywhere. That's not that true in Koryu, because in Koryu it's a very small group, they have their own dojos, and the dynamic is quite different. But in Aikido, well, I mean, the best classes I did were classes with 15 people at Yoko Sensei's dojo in Kyoto, or the classes at the Osaka Buikukai with Kimura Sensei, maybe 15 people on the mats. That was amazing classes. You know, we had time to get together, talk, discuss, learn, and it's crazy to see that small community like Kyoto or Osaka people, I felt like they're far less judgmental than the people at the Hombudo in the much larger community, which should be the opposite, you know?
Yeah.
It's super strange. And
because we're walking on eggshells in Hombu. We're nervous about, you know, like, oh my God, what if Waka Sensei walks by? Oh my God, what if so-and-so walks by? Well, we can't get in trouble. You know, it should be the opposite. You know, we should be encouraged to go out and you know, experiment and try different things. I always said that we don't need to change Aikido, but we need to change the way that we think about it and the way that we practice it.
I won't give you names, but I met a few Shihan, Hombudo Shihan teachers now, probably, in a Koryu group, doing Kenjutsu.
Oh.
At a fairly high level. And I was there for an interview. I shot the interview. And
that's interesting.
After the interview, one of them got pretty mad at me. I don't want to see my face in that video. And I would have been anyone else, couldn't have said anything. But I was at the Hombudo, so he abused this position toward me. Outside of the Budo context, you know, I was doing a job that had nothing to do with the fact I was practicing Aikido in a dojo he's teaching, you know. But also, it's crazy to see that the guy is afraid that people know that he is pretty good in Kenjutsu. Come on, I think it's very good thing.
It's awesome.
It's a very good thing. It's good he is open-minded enough to go there and practice ninjutsu, kenjutsu. So I think it's really important to be open-minded, and it's a shame to see that even high-ranked people are afraid of showing that they're open-minded. The system is really collapsing, I think.
I would think we should just tweak things a little bit. Like, instead of this nice telegraphed, oh hey, I'm gonna do this. Like, sometimes I think, well, what if I threw a feint and then did a shomen? Like, what would happen then? Would I get kicked out of the dojo just for doing a feint? I would get in trouble, I think. Yokota Sensei wouldn't say anything. He would think it's amazing. That's why I stick with him. Because this is a guy who throws side kicks and arm bars and did judo and he did karate. But you go to other classes and if I went like that, I think I might get in big trouble. And the thing is you know, you treat your students like children, they're never gonna grow up. I think it's time to make things a little bit harder. You know, people can only do things to the best of their level. That's fine. If you can't do it, you can't do it, right? You know. I think in Aikido we're expected to be able to do everything, and so that's why the level is dropped. Like, so we need to get out of our comfort zone, and we need to try things that are a little bit different. As an example, I taught a class the other day, and I did shomen, and then I said, okay, turn your head, and then throw like a gyaku shomen, and they were like, what? I was like, you know gyaku yokomen? It's the same. It's just gyaku shomen. And they're like, oh. And something that was so easy for me, 1, 2, I had to break it down. It's super simple. Ich, ni, san. And this is high-level downgrades who had never seen this before. Now, I know it's not a regular Aikido technique, but you put 2 and 2 together. okay, this is how you do Gyaku Yokomen, right? We do it with the tanto. Bah, bah. I mean, when I train Yokomenuchi Ikkyo, I always say to if I know the person, okay, if I mess up the timing and I step back a little bit far, come at me with Gyaku. So I go 1, 2, and there's a nice Ikkyo right there. And little tweaks, tiny little tweaks make so much difference. And I'm not changing Aikido by saying do Gyaku Yokomen. I'm just changing the
I remember the time where my teacher in France was bringing me everywhere. He brought me probably to almost all Aikido groups that are in France. And we did Iwama, Yoshinkan, and every weekend we were in a different dojo, in a different seminar with their top teachers. But our main, the guy we were seeing at least once a month was Christian Tissier. And at that time, Christian Tissier was a bit younger, and he was much more into like free Aikido, not free Aikido, but he liked to be kicked or worked on some Yokomen, Gyaku Yokomen, Shomen, Gyaku Shomen. You could do pretty much whatever you wanted. And he was like, yeah, okay, I have something with that. And it was quite nice, and it was obviously Aikido. I mean, when you see it, you say, but when you feel it, you know it's Aikido. You have to feel it to know it is, because when the teacher does the techniques, well, at least to me, what defines Aikido is not what it looks, it's what the uke feels. If you are done in the mats and you're not exactly sure why, there is not this strong opposition, you can feel the movement, but if you can feel that you couldn't had gone against the move, then it's Aikido. That's a very simple definition, Probably people can criticize that a lot, but I think in any case, Aikido is something you feel, not something you define just because it's a Shomen and Kotegaeshi is Aikido. I was recently watching a video of a MMA guy, very famous French guy, well, famous not for his, well, he did a few, he had a high level, but now he's doing videos and stuff like that. And he was in the French Légion étrangère, the French army. Top grade, the most ferocious guy of the French army. And they have the reputation, even to foreign armies, to be pretty rough.
Do you know how I know about these guys? Because of the Jean-Claude Van Damme movie when he played the French Legionnaire soldier. And the very first line of the movie was, he's a French Legionnaire soldier.
There are a lot of stories. The guys train in South America, and they have exchanges with US militaries and Navy SEALs. These guys are no joke. And they're really like learning together. And the MMA guy, he had the physical abilities. Yeah, okay. The physical training was okay. The mental training, he was broke after half an hour. You could feel in his voice and face that he was broken. And after this super hard training, they did basic French military combat training. It was all Kotegaeshi and then Hijiki Meosai, and it was all Aikido techniques. But it was not Aikido, because it was applied with physical strength from very well-trained militaries. They could break your arm in just one punch, but the movement was like Aikido. And so that's why I say, you can say that's Aikido. Or if you say that, then the French military is doing Aikido, which they're certainly not doing. That of course not. I think you're perfectly right. It's not because you add different techniques to different things in Aikido, but for what it's worth, also in karate or whatever. I mean, there are core principles, there are basic techniques you learn. You have to learn to be like Shodan Hidan, and then after that, it's always the same techniques. So if you don't add anything new in what you're doing, you're going to be a very, very good doshu copy, maybe, but not a budokai,
A cookie cutter.
Yeah.
A cookie cutter, Yes.
Yeah, please.
This, the class that I taught the other week, it was all Japanese people. Well, there was one or two foreigners, but there was about 10 Japanese. And my thinking going into the class is, okay, I don't just want to show, okay, just do this technique, just do this technique. Because the problem that I find with, and there's a couple of younger kids in Hombu right now, Sandan, Nidans, you know them. And I tell them, right, now that you've got your Sandan, it's not about how. Who cares about how? It's about why. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this technique? You know, why do we do Nikkyo? I asked him, why do we do Nikkyo? Oh, because it's part of the syllabus. Well, no, we do Ikkyo because somebody pulls their hand away, and you stay on it, and you know, this kind of stuff. Like I said to the group, they're like, you know, like I have him down in Kotegash. Why do I step over? And someone said, oh, it's because it's we have to for the grading. I said. One other guy said, oh, because he might escape. I said, okay, that's pretty good. Okay, because the theme of this class for me was like Zanshin, the mental, martial mindset. I said, okay, good. Escape, yes, okay, let's think about it a little bit bigger. I have him down on the ground in Kotegash. What if he kicks me? I showed a technique, I grabbed it, and I put him in a heel hook, and I submitted him. Okay, what if he tries to escape this way? I said, do it. Kicked him in the head. Obviously not really kicked him, you know. Okay, what if he's only got one option now? He can't kick, he can't go this way, so he goes that way, and I just follow him. Oh, this is a white guy teaching Japanese people some pretty simple Budo principles. But I wanted to tell them it's not about how. Who cares about how? You can spend your first 10 years, and once you get to Nidan, about how. But once you get Nidan to Sandan, it's got to be about why. Start thinking more. And the problem is, we can go on all day about, okay, Aikido, the problem is this, the problem is this, but it's more beneficial for us to, how can we make it better? And I don't mean to change it, I just mean, how can we make people understand why we're doing what we're doing? And for me, this is all about like the Zanshin, and that was the kind of the theme that I had of this class. And they kind of somewhat got it. This was the one where I was talking about the Gyaku, you know, Shomen, and it's a big thing with me, is not how, but why. And I didn't understand any of this until I went out and cross-trained when they did my kickboxing and my shoot wrestling. Like how to submit people, how to, when you get close, what like, you know, we do irimi nage in Aikido, but why do we do irimi nage? Well, because like Sensei decided when he got a little bit older and very spiritual that everything should be nage, right? Because he wanted to be peaceful. But what's more important, the throw or the irimi? The whole thing is like, okay, irimi is so important. Okay, but what do we do when we get there? Well, not many people know. Like Aikido came from, you think about like the Hell Dojo period, when all these judoka came over and they were like, okay, we've been sent here by Kano Sensei because some guy called Ueshiba is supposed to be famous. And he's supposed to be amazing. But they came with skills, with serious judo skills, right? But they couldn't do anything because like Sensei had the answers at the top. When you think about the pyramid, Sensei he's the cherry on the top, right? You have your strong base. You can't have a nice house without a good foundation, right? These judoka came over and they had this awesome foundation. They could throw you, they could do all this stuff, but they didn't have the final piece of the puzzle. That was Sensei, Ueshiba Sensei's Aikido, right? And I kind of feel that now, the Genzai Aikido, the modern day stuff, is like everyone is just trying to get that nice little cherry on the top, but we need to go back down to the basic. Sensei spent years and years and years developing not only his mind, but people think, well, Aikido is all about, mental and spiritual. No, develop your body. Why do we bend down when we take ukemi? Because we want to develop our legs. We need leg power. You can't just expect to throw somebody if you don't have some kind of people say, oh, you shouldn't lift weights because you get strong. You need to be strong in some of that's comfortable for you. And I'm going on a bit of a rant, but
but I agree with you. I mean, yes, Aikido gives you good leverage over people a bit stronger than you, but there is a limit the techniques can't just overcome. If the guy is 30-40 kilograms over you, it's just no.
Mm-hmm.
You probably can do with some nasty moves or timing, or you can, I don't know, go for the eyes or stuff like that. But you won't do a proper clean Aikido technique
Never
to
gonna
someone
happen.
that is 40 kilograms or whatever. And people just have a very hard time admitting that. Look at O-sensei Ueshiba. Ueshiba was 152, 53 centimeters for fucking 80 kilograms. He was a monster.
Yeah.
He was a physical monster. There are pictures or two you can find. The guy is larger than.
Did you know he tried to join the military?
Yeah.
And he failed because he was too short.
He was too short. Yeah.
And then he started hanging from trees.
Yeah.
And got in.
And he was mad about that, so he started a very harsh physical training to get stronger. So, yeah, I agree. Aikido techniques give you leverage. It's obvious when you Shihonage, once you've passed the center point, the other guy is going to have a very hard time blocking you from the throw. But he is very strong. Yeah, he can. And it's not because you can't do your technique on someone much stronger than you that your technique is not correct. It's a much more complicated thing. It's dynamic. It's why you're doing this technique at this moment with these people, why he's blocking. You know, I've met a lot of people, probably you too, even at Hamburg, that are very, very good at blocking.
What do you mean by blocking?
They're blocking your technique, keeping you from throwing most of the time.
We call these the black belt blockers.
Yeah, but most of the time, it's dishonest.
It's super dishonest.
First, they're using tricks, and when you don't know them, you can block them too. So tricks, but not only tricks. It's just because they're quite strong, because they're blocking make them stronger. So more they block and stronger they are and more they can block and less flexible they are. So less inclined they'll be to do a technique, and in the end, well, it's not really interesting. That kind of practice is not really interesting. It's I think you're perfectly correct in this why we're doing a technique. Why would you block a technique if the technique is more or less correct? Just to show that you can do it, yeah, okay, it's not going to help much. Not you, neither the guy you're training with. But you can not block, but dodge, move, make the thing a bit harder for your partner, just a bit harder. So you're pushing him a little bit, not to the point he can't do it. If he can't do it, he's not going to go anywhere. He's not going to learn anything. But that's hard enough for him to really have a hard time applying the technique. I think it's a much better approach.
Look, the essence of Budo is pure heart and honesty. Okay?
Yeah, exactly.
This is not just about the person. This is about the way that you train. Now, I can ask for someone. Now, I want to quickly talk about your friend Guillaume, because you had him on here before. Now, he was kind of ridiculed online for the video. But I can tell you, of all the guys I've ever trained with in Hombu, he has the purest, from his heart, fastest strike I've ever come across. When he tries to hit you, if you don't get out of the way, he's going to hit you. This is all you ask for in Aikido. This is all you can ask for.
I totally agree with you. It's very hard training with him, because he's fast and he's not nice.
That's great though. I love that.
He's not going to give you...
I haven't trained with him in over 10 years. So I don't know, but 10 years ago, you know.
Yeah, but he's honest, you know. He's 100% in the technique, and that's, and that's why when I train with him, I do the same. I'm dead after 15 minutes, you know. I can't even finish a 1 hour class with him. But yeah, I do the same. If I try to do that on other people, even though I'm not very strong, I'm not, you know, I'm not trained to be a fighter or whatever, but only being honest in the technique, in the attack, is enough to destabilize probably 99%.
Yes. No matter how big or small.
Just crazy. Even teachers I mean, I remember a case with Sugara Sensei. I was really attacking sincerely, 100%, and he missed his first move, and I just hit on his head with my elbow. And it was kind of a hard hit. He's much stronger than me, but I think he really felt it, and it was like I would have left the class if that was him, you know. So it was quite strong. He looked at me and he said, "It's okay, it's on me.
It is 100%.
Next technique, no discussion."
Yeah.
You know, and he, but I think he wasn't expecting so much honesty in the attack. Not that he cannot deal with that. He can, totally, no problem. But yeah, he did 50 times technique with people not really engaging, and the 51st time he got some guy really engaging, and he was like, "Oh, okay, I was half sleeping." I think that's a really big problem, not only at Hombu, everywhere, and not only in Aikido actually, probably in Japan as a whole. Japanese people tend to have this, I don't know what you're saying about that, but this problem about honesty. Not that they're dishonest in itself, but they just can't express themselves. They can't engage. They don't engage in discussion. They don't engage in debate. They don't engage in martial arts. They don't engage in the technique. They don't engage in anything.
Yeah, when was the last time?
Holding back.
When was the last time you had a this, for example, only because it's in the news right now, and I don't want to give a stance either way, but Palestine and Israel, it's a problem that I don't know enough about to solve. But when was the last time you could talk to a Japanese person about something like this?
Yeah.
Or I don't know if it's because they're not interested in it, perhaps. I don't know.
I was also curious, but did Budo influence your job? Of course, probably not your job as an IT, but your job when you made a few movies, and now in your new job. You have inspiration, I don't know, artistic, or in the way you are promoting your business or doing your business, or the ideas you put in your business that make your stuff different than what yours. Is there anything that comes from Budo?
When I was doing Taekwondo as a little child, I would go to my father's Aikido dojo, and I'd look at them and I was like, what are these guys doing? Like, they're just throwing each other for like meters and meters. This is, you know, and my father used to make me watch his class, right? And sometimes I'd pick up a little boy, and I couldn't read a newspaper, but I'd pick up a newspaper and I'd hold it up there because I didn't want to watch his Aikido, right? All I wanted to do when I was a child was I would look at Jean-Claude Van Damme and Steven Seagal. Now, you can't deny, as sorry to the fans out there, as pathetic as he has become, he had a massive influence on spreading Aikido globally.
And he was a very good action actor for like a few years. He had his moments. The comparison with Van Damme or even with Stallone, and at the time,
But you know, the Stallone and all those guys, they were like actors who could do so I know Stallone did boxing, but he's an actor. Jean-Claude Van Damme was like this, like, you know, he did karate and he did kickboxing, and he was a guy that, you know, I don't know. I don't know how legit he is. I don't know. But when I was a boy, I wanted to be a filmmaker or an actor because of what they were doing on the TV. Okay, I would watch the same action movies over and over and over again. The reason I joined Aikido is not because my father did it. It's because I watched Nico Above the Law in that opening scene. Dun, dun, dun. And he takes that Japanese guy apart, and the little 5-foot Japanese kid that he just destroys, right? I was like, wow, this is dynamic. This is really cool. Well, I can do that. This is, you know, so everything is like from Taekwondo to karate to everything has been because of my influence in doing martial arts that I've decided to become a filmmaker. What I realized that when I was in front of the camera acting is I'm a really bad, terrible actor. That's why I gave up trying to be an action star and, you know, went behind the camera. But
well, most martial artists were and are very bad actors, but good artists. So the choreography makes it. You know?
Yeah.
I think people tend to forget how the gap there is between someone physically extremely well trained and just a martial artist. Even if well trained, we're not talking the same level of physical training, especially in Aikido, but not only in Aikido. In Karate, maybe you'll have Kyokushinkai people who could have a decent fight. But take any form of karate, but full contact karate, it's not efficient.
It's hard, yeah.
It's absolutely not efficient. Taekwondo is not efficient. I'm not talking about kendo or judo or whatever. You know, guys, they have strong arms, but still no techniques. What's left? People are going to say MMA. Of course, it was designed to be mixed martial arts.
Yeah, but it has rules that also.
It has rules, but
that keep it.
Of course, it's a bit more efficient than regular martial arts. It was designed to be more efficient. Martial arts were designed to be somewhat efficient at the beginning, but there were also social constructs to build character and community at a specific period of time. And now you're taking even Aikido out of the context to say it's not as good as MMA. Well, it's not the same goals, it's not the same design, it's not the same time. The comparison is stupid. Aikido is saying they're better than MMA guy is even more stupid.
That's stupid,
We'd agree on that.
But I believe in the power of Aikido, in that if you know what he knows, you can bring it to your Aikido and you can be better.
But you can also train to be efficient in Aikido, if you want to. But you have to want to. We don't all want that. I mean,
so that's why I say, you know, if you only want to, like someone said to me once, I don't care if it works or not. I'm looking for something deeper. I said, okay, that's great. You be here. I want to be here. Maybe I might slowly come this way when I get older. But it's for everybody. Aikido is for everybody. All right, that's people like me, the Donald Trumps of martial arts. And then there's these guys, the love and peace warriors over here in Aikido. It's for everybody. But
as far as you're honest with yourself, I'm do peace and love Aikido, and I cannot fight.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. That's true. That's
no
exactly,
problem.
Yeah.
And or I do warrior Aikido, and I can fight. You have to prove it. Because it's too easy.
Yeah. So being one of these black belt blockers, okay, which one are you? You know, like you.
Yeah, that.
Pick a side, pal. You know, like a famous story. A 6th Dan foreigner came to me to train, and I'm taking ukemi for him because he's kind of high up in one of these famous senseis. He's foreigner. He was at Hombu. And I'm taking ukemi as best as I can because, you know, he has a reputation, not as a fighter or a strong man, just a senior student. And as I'm taking this nice, very nice ukemi, he says to me, "You're being nice. I'm not going to be so nice to you." I thought, oh, what? Okay, what does that mean? And then he started to hold on, when it was my turn, he started to hold on to me really tight. And I took him straight to the ground. And I didn't even get a chance to put on some submission. He tapped before I could even touch some point. And I said, come on, man, like, don't try to wrestle a wrestler. Like, you know, like I can understand that if he wanted to play around a little bit and, you know, but, you know, don't tap before I even get anywhere near, you know, like this is being super dishonest. Like, you know, this is what we're talking about. I can't take these guys.
One of my best, well, not best, but most vivid memories of that kind of people, I had the same kind of issue. The guy wasn't a bad guy, you know, he was a Japanese guy, was 5th Dan at the time, I think. Teacher somewhere, because that's one of the problems of the Hombu dojo. You call, hey, sensei, and you have like half of the room. So there was an ego issue.
Yeah, now it's Shihan. Hey, Shihan, and now everybody's, you know, looking at you.
When you have too many Shihan and sensei in the room, it poses some other problems too. And you know, I was being nice when applying the technique. Honest, but not 100%. Was 50, 60%. Was the beginning of the class where warming up a bit, and the guy was his turn and was like a bit stiffer, you know. Okay, fine, it's the beginning. Let's, you know, gradually. And after 10-15 minutes, you know, gradually it was stiffer and stiffer and stiffer. At some point, okay, if you really want to hurt, I'm going to be dishonest too. Mm. And I started to be as flexible and, yeah, as flexible as possible. Not, you know, completely empty, just flexible. You want me to move, you push me just a little bit and I move. Just a little bit, and I'm going everywhere you want, like really. And the guy couldn't do any technique. Because if there is no attack, if you're the most dishonest possible in your in your attacks, then there is of course no Aikido. Whatever you want to do, you can't even do an EQ and put the guy on the ground. And I remember Miyamoto Sensei coming and watching us a minute or two and say, "Come on, guys!
Yeah.
What the hell?"
Yeah.
And I look at Miyamoto Sensei, you know, and he understood immediately because, you know, teachers, they know the students. And he watched the other guy. He looked at the other guy. He knocked on his shoulder and say, "No, you stop." I was like, okay, that's a teacher move. That's good from teacher. And for like 10 minutes, it got much better. And then came the final 5 minutes, the free practice we do at the end of most classes. And the guy wanted to do the same thing. It's free classes, so I can go back to what I want to do. You know, he thought probably. And he didn't like how he ate the tatami for 5 minutes. He was 50. Yeah. I was 30 years old. At some point, after 1 hour class, there is absolutely no chance he can win on something based on physical abilities. So why did he play? You know, that's not only blocking is not only stupid. If you think a bit, you know you're going to lose. It's even stupider. Why? I really don't understand.
Because Aikido has this bubble where everybody is Harry Potter. Okay, everybody's a wizard, and yeah, I always you ask my kohais, I'll tell you after who they are, and I always say to them, "Oh man, that was shit." When I'm doing my own technique, right? They're taking grade ukemi, but it's like, "Oh no, that sucks. That was terrible." And like you ask them, how many times a class does he say that? And it's like, oh, at least 2 or 3 or 4. He keeps commenting on his own how crap his own stuff is. That's me. You just gotta be honest with yourself and, you know, to others.
Before I heard that you were doing pro wrestling, like, I don't know, it was quite a while ago.
2012.
Yeah.
I started.
8-9 years ago.
Yeah.
I was looking down at pro wrestling. I didn't care much, actually. I had the image of the Americans. And I was like, well, okay, it's staged.
That's fair. That's fair, though.
It's fair. Staged.
Yeah.
You know, people are criticizing Aikido. I could criticize that too. It's the same thing. It's staged. I have no interest in big muscles people. You know, that was. And after you did move to pro wrestling.
Did you see any of my matches?
Yeah,
you came. I remember you coming.
Yeah. I think I've. No. I missed. I've seen only videos, YouTubes, and once there was not something on TV once.
Yeah, I've been on TV a couple of times.
I think we watched something with a few Honbu guys. It was on TV. We were at a restaurant near Honbu, and we asked the guy to turn it was BSTV, I think.
Yeah. And I was on there.
Yeah, no, the satellite channels.
Okay. Yeah.
And yeah, I think I remember that. It was quite a while ago, though. And we drank a lot.
Okay.
And you know, I did watch some other matches. I looked at the concepts on internet, and I was like, okay, I had an image that was not completely wrong, but also not completely true. And I had no reason to look down at this because actually it's
Well,
not that far away from what we're doing.
Your image is of the 80s and 90s, where everything was big and the character and like Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair and all these guys. But if I can just take 5 minutes to explain where Japanese pro wrestling came from, because it's completely different.
Yeah, it looks quite different.
And how it turned into MMA. Because we talked a little bit about MMA in this, so I'll give you a very quick overall. Japan lost the war. Tokyo was destroyed. It was in ruins. Morale was down. We already talked about in the 60s when things started to pick up, but let's go back to 1950s, right? How are we going to get the Japanese people's morale up? Okay, they brought in a wrestling troupe. Wrestling had been confined largely to the circus, and then in the 40s and 50s a little bit more proper staged events. How do we get the Japanese people's morale up? Okay, we need to create some stars. And these stars need to beat these Americans. So who are we going to get? Right? We don't have any we don't know how to train pro wrestlers. Okay, let's grab this sumo guy. Let's grab this judo guy. Right? And they're our two big stars. And now a lot of things. So most of the early pioneers of Japanese wrestling were like legit martial artists, like the Kimura lock, right? The jiu-jitsu guys called the Kimura submission. It came from a guy called Kimura. It was a double wrist lock from catch wrestling, and he was a pro wrestler. And so you had this idea of the fight has to look real in Japan because it's for the morale of the people. If you do all these big colorful things, they're not fools. They're going to see right through it. So let's make it look as real as possible. But the Japanese guy wins in the end because he has to beat the big white guy because we got crushed in the war. But we're still Nihonjin no Kokoro, the spirit of Japan people, and we need to show everybody. So they got a little guy over who was a sumo called Riki Dozan, who was actually Korean, not Japanese at all. He was Korean, but they gave him a Japanese name and they made him the star. And from there, they took a guy called Inoki, who is famous for having probably one of the first ever MMA matches against Muhammad Ali in the 70s. And Inoki and another guy called Baba, they separated and they went that way. And Inoki, after Riki Dozan had died, Antonio Inoki said, you know what, like we need to make this more real. Already it's a much more real than the American theatrics, but we need to make it more real. So what do? Okay, we bring in this guy called Carl Gotch, who was an Olympic freestyle wrestler who trained in catch wrestling in Wigan, where it's based, in the UK, that's where it's from. And you know what? We're going to train all our guys to do this legitimate catch shoot wrestling. And that's, it's largely similar to American pro wrestling, but its basis is in 100% shoot wrestling, shoot fighting. Now you had this, you heard of Ken Shamrock, the UFC guy. He was a pro wrestler, okay, who saw a tape of Japan and he said, I like that, that looks real. Where can I do that? And he went to Carl Gotch in the US, who sent him to, Japan. The Japanese at some point said, you know what, like, it's still not real enough. We've taken it from this, we've taken it as far as we can, but it's still not real enough. Let's make it look like a real, what we now know as MMA, like a real fight, but just only the ending is decided, nothing else. And they're just gonna spar and they're just gonna kick the shit out of each other. But as long as he knows that this guy has to win at the end, because that's how you build stars, right? You have to have a guy lose a couple of matches and then he becomes an underdog and he wins. This is it's the hero overcomes the bad enemy. This is storytelling 101 from the beginning of ancient times. So they made this thing called the UWF. And the champion of UWF in UFC #1 was Ken Shamrock, who was a pro wrestler trained in shoot fighting. That just went... And to cut a long story short, and I'm really skipping over a lot of important details, but UWF became pancreas, which is a very old Greek word for ancient wrestling, and became the pancration, and it morphed into UFC.
It explains why K1 and UFC were so famous, so popular in Japan until like 10 years ago. it was on TV for New Year or Christmas.
It still is now. Now Rising is back on TV in New Year's.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know for a while it disappeared.
Yeah.
But I was like, come on. In France, you can't even have MMA or K1 or UFC on TV. It's forbidden.
Wow.
So it's certainly not
But it's ingrained.
at 8 p.m.
It's
on Christmas Eve.
It's ingrained in Japanese people because how did TV become so popular in Japan? Well, Rikidozan. He was the most famous guy in all of the country, and everyone wanted to see his matches. They couldn't afford TV, so they'd go down to Shimbashi, where they used to have one of the big for now, it's a small TV in someone's home, but at the time, in Japan, in post-war, they had TVs about this size, and thousands would jam around it to watch Rikidozan's matches. So, I know I'm a pro wrestler, and I'm trying to make you, pro wrestling is great, but it really is. It's shaped. It was one of the big parts of the economic boom. And it became mixed martial arts. The history goes right back. There's no two ways about it. So.
Is there anything we didn't talk about and you'd like to mention? I think we catched up on the pro wrestling parts. Anything else you're doing and we haven't talked about?
No, I think we covered pretty much everything. Can't think of anything. We talked a lot.
So you will be back. You're already back at Aikido, right?
I took a year off. I came back in March of this year, and I've got to be honest. It's a struggle. It's a real struggle, just to get. I hate to sound big-headed, but just to get decent training right now, it's very hard.
Well, the COVID situation doesn't help because the practice is a bit changed, and I think we also have a problem with the COVID who made many people stop coming, including, sorry, I don't want to have big head either, but Guillaume or me not coming because of the COVID for various reasons. Maybe we're wrong, I don't know.
I can only comment on Monday nights. And I don't really see a whole lot of change in the class attendance. Sensei's changed his stuff completely, but it's I don't know. It's just hard to get I don't want to fight anybody. I just want to get a workout, where I don't have to teach. I don't want to teach anybody, but it's. I honestly, I'm in two minds if I'm gonna, because it's closed right now. I don't know if I'm gonna go back for a while. I don't know. I mean, I'm on the fence about it at the moment.
Aikido is in between many different things, so I think it's something you can go away from time, get back to it, navigate around it. Aikido is nice for that. It's probably much more difficult if you do like competitive judo. So going back to judo when you can't do competition anymore is difficult.
Yeah. Those guys struggle.
Most people, they just stop judo. Maybe you want to go back to Aikido when you'll be 60 and then you won't be able to move very well anymore. Like all of us, I'm afraid. Or no, Tada Sensei. You started with Tada Sensei. Don't you want to be able to move like he does at over 90 years old?
Yeah, well, he was doing suburi for 1,000 a day, Yeah, that's some real body conditioning.
Yeah, it's really amazing because this the combination between the stretching, physical training, meditation,
and the meditation
practice. I've heard that he's not in very good health when he's not teaching.
Oh yeah.
Have some trouble walking, but you see the guy stepping on the mats. He is in a different state of mind, Maybe it's meditation or it's a mental ability.
Yokoro Sensei is the same. He's just full of injuries. He can't even walk up the stairs of Hombu. Like before I took a year off, I would hold him.
Like half of the teachers.
Yeah. But when he gets on the mats, though, he's so dynamic and fast.
But that's something that always impressed me. You had Sugawara Sensei who couldn't walk the stairs for months, and he started the class. We could see him on the stairs, like holding the because he couldn't just walk normally. And get on the mats, Seiza, bow, Sugariwaza.
Yeah.
What? And he does it.
Yeah.
I think that's a bit crazy sometimes. But, yeah, Aikido is probably, depending on how you practice, giving you also that kind of ability, right? Mental ability. But I'm sure you're going to tell me that pro wrestling or whatever, karate, whatever you've done, does the same.
Well, you know, when you're in front of fans, you have no choice. Doesn't matter if you're hurt. Like, I've been knocked out in a match before, and I've been hurt in a match before, but you're in front of paying people. You have no choice. You have to finish it. There's been times when I can't breathe anymore. I'm so tired. But I have to finish. This is just, I don't know, part of being a professional.
Yeah, okay.
These guys are pros. That's what they have to do. They got no choice, you know.
Yeah, that's an interesting topic, actually. Yeah. In Aikido, you don't have to. But if you...
That's for, let's do that. Take it up for the next one, the next interview.
Yeah, of course. Thank you very much for coming, for staying that long. Thank you very much for watching. This is, at this time, the last interviews we had planned shooting. So some that we shot before are not released yet, but the shooting is the last one. We have a few names for next shootings, but with the COVID situation, the Olympics coming this summer, things are moving in Japan right now, so we don't really know what's coming in the next months. We should have a few more in this series anyway. I hope so, because it's an interesting series. Stay tuned for the next one, and maybe we'll see you on other pro wrestling match some days, or I don't know, if you have any activity, anything you want to share before this video comes out, just send that to us. We'll put that in the description, put the links in the videos. And thank you very much again. It was a real pleasure.
Thank you very much.
It was probably the first time we met for like 2-3 years, so it was a real pleasure.
Yeah, last time I saw you I said the Kagami Biraki.
Yeah.
I think I was wearing a suit that year, right? If that was the year. It was the only time I wore a suit, the Kagami Biraki.
Probably. 18?
So, yeah, it was 2018. Because Yokota Sensei got his 8th dan in 2019, but I wasn't in the country for it. I remember now. So it was 2018.
Yeah, exactly. I remember the 19 when Yokota Sensei got the grade, and of course.
It was the year before that I saw
the year before. I was the year we had way too much drink on the 4th floor, right?
Okay. I don't participate in those, but yeah.
Oh, in the 4th floor before we leave the Kagami Biraki.
Okay. Yeah, I mean there was too many people there. That's all I remember.
Yeah, because as you mentioned before, that's a nice conclusion. In Japan, Budo people drink a lot, including in the dojo, including at the home Budo.
Yeah.
That's how it is. But Budo is also about life and having fun. So
making lifelong connections.
Yeah. Like this one.
Yeah,
thank you very much again for coming, and I hope we'll have another opportunity to do...
I'll give you a COVID fist bump. Here you go.
Anything together in the next months or years.
Sure. Yeah,
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Stay tuned, and goodbye.